Hello everyone, thank you for joining this second session on the use of QGIS. So in the first session we saw how to use the software, what are the different elements, how to add data into the map, and you should by now have a project similar to what I have displayed here. If not, if you didn't follow the first one, you can download the resources and the ready-to-use project. So today's symbology. So the symbology is all the style you apply to the different entities of a map to really give information, give additional information, either through color, through labeling, through shape, icons. So we're gonna see all of this together. And first of all, before starting, you have to make sure that you have the symbology part ready. So you have to go in a view. And when you go all the way down, you have panel. And in the panel, you have a lot of different options. And what we want right now is the layer styling. So this will open a layer styling panel on the right. So there's another way to find this layer styling is to select a layer, do right click, properties, and then within the properties, you have information, which just give like general information on the layer, some information on the source, and symbology. But it's easier when you have to go through different layers to use the layer styling panel. One of the reasons for that is that once you have a property open for example, right now it's for the admin layers of the country, I will not be able to click on anything else. I would have to apply or do OK and then open again the property, go to symbology, which can be a bit long and you cannot easily go from like one layer to the other. So what I advise is to use the layer styling. So we're going to start with this layer. We're going to put it all the way to the top. So it's energy sector, clean power plants. So the name comes from comes because of a geo package. So you can modify the name. This will not change the name of your file. It will just make it easier for you to use within the project. So I have power plant. I'm going to remove the filter we created in the previous project to make sure that we have a lot of points. And now you have multiple options. So we're going to increase the size of this, of the layer styling. So here you see that if I move from layer to layer, the layer styling will apply to the one selected. So first I select in the layer panel, and now I'm going to go in the first one, so symbology. So marker is the final icon, and currently the final icon, the marker, is made of one simple marker, which is a green dot with a black stroke around. So already I can modify the size of this to make it bigger. I can change the color to something else. So you should have at the bottom the standard color and the recent colors. If it's the first time you use QGIS, you might not have anything here. But here I can choose one of the color. Let's take this orange. I can change the stroke color as well. So the stroke is the part around the points. And you can see that right away any modification I do will apply directly here, and I can see how it looks like. I can also add, once I modify this simple marker, I can add another one. So let's say that maybe I want to add a start width, I want to make it white, I don't want it to have a stroke, I can put transparent stroke, and I can increase the size. So you can see that my final marker is made of two different ones, a star that I just created, and a background. I can change the order of them here, and it will show. So that's a good way to show points if all the points are the same thing. So for example, here we can say that like, so all of those orange and white stars are power plants. But it doesn't give a lot of information to the reader because it just knows that there's power plants in all those places. Let me remove this layer. Okay, so this is all the power plant. So something we can do instead of single symbol is to do what's called categorized. But before looking into categorized, so let's look into the different versions. So you have categorized, which means that you need a category field that you will use. Graduated will use a numeric value and will classify it in multiple classes, and every class will get a color. Rule-based allows you to go further into it and give like very specific symbology to specific items. For example, if you only want power stations that are like next to a dam or things like this, power station above a certain output, you can do it here. You can do point displacement and point cluster, which we'll not see in this class. An heat map is a way to represent when you have a lot of points and you want to show if like every point is a specific item, for example, a case or an incident. You can show with a heat map. The amount of points will create like a darker color or lighter color depending on what you choose, but it's a way to show density when you have a lot of points. But in our case, we don't have enough points. So now we want to do categorized. But before doing categorized, I have to look into what are the fields in my dataset. So to do that, I select the layer and I click on the table item right here. So this will open a new window that will give me all the information that I have with my data. And you can see that it can interact with the points. But now we have to look into what could be a field I can use as a category. So the first two, FID and OSM are unique ID for the points. So it means that like every value is for one specific point. So we cannot use it as a category because then we would have one category per point. Same for the name. The name will be unique to the station, so it's not really useful. We could use the operator if you're doing a map of a certain country and you want to see if you know that there's multiple operator. If there's like maybe some private and some public operator and you want to show the distribution within the map, you could use operator, but it's not what we want to show in our case. Method and source could be used as a category. We see that there's quite a lot of them, different source, different method. Then you have output. You have values for it. One with megawatt that can be used as a label, we'll see later, and one just as a numeric value to allow classification. And you can see that I can filter and take like the order them by the biggest output and the smallest output. But here I can see that there's one field that's called output classification, and that this one might work quite well for our use. I see that there's not a lot of values. We have nuclear, fossil fuel, and renewable. So that may be the best for us to use. So I'm going to close the table. So in categorized, you can see that here I have value, and within value I can choose a field. So I'm going to go and choose output classification. So you see that nothing happens. And first I have a symbol. So this symbol will be, the color doesn't matter because the color will be used by the classification itself. But here I can define, maybe I want, instead of a round, I want a square, one like this, perfect, and maybe I want it a bit bigger. Okay, so we're gonna take this. And now, even though I applied, nothing happened. Because I didn't classify yet. So when you go all the way down, now that you have your value, I can classify. It will add all the different values that were found in the table automatically. That's why it's important not to use if I were to use one of the ID by accident or the name, it might create issue on QGIS. QGIS might not be able to run because you will have to create one class per item, so it will take a lot of power for it. So here I can change the order of the different items and choose different color. You see that it didn't take into account the color I chose here. It gave a different color, but it kept the shape I wanted. So you can deselect all of the values if you think that maybe there was a mistake. Some don't have the output classification and you don't want them to appear on the map. You can remove it. And now we can choose different colors. So for fossil fuel, maybe we can use something like black, but maybe not as dark, like a very dark gray might be nice. For renewable, we can use green. This. And for nuclear, we can use blue. Or yellow, maybe. Might choose the blue for something else later. Let's do orange. Okay. And all the other ones, we can put it in gray to show that we don't know what it is. Very light gray, like this. Okay. So now already the map is giving a bit more information than what it was before. Just gonna modify the green because we don't see it very well. Choose something maybe a bit darker. Right, perfect. So now we can see on the map the different elements, and already you give to the reader the information about the type of output, the type of energy. So now that we have this, one thing we can do is look into labels. So labels is a way to add text to the map linked to the elements. We're going to do single label. So here it goes. We have the name are displayed right away on all of the points, but it's getting a bit messy. So one thing we can do already is maybe make the word a bit lighter. We can change the style to make it bold. We can change the font to something different. Let's do MS sans serif. Très bien. We can change the opacity of it if we want it to appear a bit less. But it's quite messy. There's a lot of them. So to make them appear easily, because you can see that, for example, here the words are going above the border, so sometimes you cannot really read the letters. So to avoid that, you can create what's called a buffer on the text. So here now we can easily read around everything. Another way is to create a background behind it, like kind of an etiquette with it. We can add a shadow to it to make it pop out a bit. But now you can notice that with those etiquettes, you don't really see the points anymore. So that's why we can go here in placement. You choose around the point and you can modify the distance. So let's move it 2 millimeters away. So here we go. But we still have a lot of information, and maybe there's one information that's missing from all of this so far. It's maybe a hierarchy, because so far all the stations appear the same way, no matter how much we're producing. So first thing we can do is, instead of using single labels, we're gonna do rule-based labeling to do some filtering on the labels. So we can say, for example, that we want only the main power plant to appear. So we're going to call it main power plant. We're going to create a filter here with this window, the expression builder that we saw We saw in the last session, then you go down to fields and value, and we're gonna choose the output numeric that we saw. And we're gonna say we want only the output numeric that's above 100 to get rid maybe of a smaller power plant. Can do OK. And now by default, I can apply. Maybe it's not big enough. Let's do 500 maybe. Yeah. So here you can see that as I do it, you see that some are disappearing. So 150 makes a lot of them disappear. 100 seems to be a good way. But what we can do is that, because this map is we might keep it as an interactive map, meaning that like at this loop you might want to make it scale dependent. So we can say that for this one we want it to be displayed as it is at all levels. So we can take the curves. We can do the minimum to. We can say that like starting this zoom level we want them to appear. Okay. To the maximum it's okay. Okay, so we have this one. But then we want to be able, if we zoom in, we want the information still on even the smaller ones. So we can create a new rule that will apply to the smaller power plant. And we're gonna do this. So the same, we're gonna do the same, but instead this time we're gonna do smaller than 150. And we're gonna do scale range. And we're gonna say that it starts being displayed at this level. Okay. Okay. No, let's do something. Okay. So now if I why isn't it working? Ah, ça on avait dit. Below 0. Let's see why it's not displaying. Yeah, sorry. I forgot to put the name. There we go. I can do the same background, drop shadow, and position. So now if I zoom out, they disappear, and we only keep the main one. And when you're fully zoomed out, none of the name appear. So that's already one way to kind of show the different hierarchy. But it's not really enough to guide the reader in the use. So we're gonna go back to this window of the category himself, and we're gonna change the size of the different power plants to translate the value. So here under size, you see that we chose 3, but we can choose different sizes. But here we can make it depending on the variable. So we go to assistant. It's gonna open this small window, and here we choose. So it can only be numeric values. So we're gonna take the output numeric. We're gonna load the values. So this will take the smallest and the biggest value. But for area, the maximum is not that much. We can check, by the way. Let's do a check quickly to see what's our maximum value, because here it's taking the data for the whole world. But if we do only our area, we open the table. So you can see that when I open the table, even though I selected, I don't really see the one I selected. I mean, if I go down, I see some of them, but it's hard to catch them. So in that case, you have one option, that's here, move selection to the top that allows you to put all the maximum values all the way to the top. And now we can see that the biggest power plant seems to be this one. It's a water storage hydropower, meaning a dam that has an output of 1870 megawatts. So this is the biggest we have in the region. So it's much smaller than the 900,000 one that you have here. And it's important to change it because otherwise all the points will be relatively small compared to this very big station. So we're gonna assign a value of 2000, and now you can see already that it's much more telling the different sizes as compared to before. So I'm gonna deselect everything. Okay. And now we can change the actual size of the maximum one. So if I want to translate, this might be good, like up to 15. Very good, apply, okay. So I think already with this layer we can be quite satisfied with the way it's displayed. It allows the user to really see what are the biggest station in the area. But we can go a bit further into the labeling, because right now we can see it gives us an information on the name, but that's it. So what we can do is go back to this one. So we're just gonna personalize this one. Here in the expression dialog, we can create a specific label, like an etiquette, that would be easier to use for the reader. So for that, we use the option that's called concat, that allows to concatenate multiple elements into one text. So here we're gonna take the name, and we're going to go one line under, comma, and the output. But you can take the output megawatts. This way you already have a value with it. Close the comma, and here you have a preview of the value. So that's great. Do OK, and now you can set it like this. So now we have an etiquette that with on the first line the name of the station, the power plant, and then the output. So it's a good way to have on the map all those information. Okay, so this was for the symbology of points. So we're gonna stop displaying it, and we're gonna add maybe something that could help in understanding it, like another layer for context. We're gonna use the power line. So same here, we're gonna rename the data. Was it not finding it here? We're gonna change the name to just power lines to make it more understandable. And we see all this data. We're gonna do symbology, and we're gonna look at how is the data. So we're gonna open the table. It may take a bit of time to load because this is the world data for power lines. So it's a really big data set. So the table may take a bit of time to load, but here it is. So we have some information. We see already that a lot of information are not always present. That's because this data is from OpenStreetMap, and sometimes information are not present, but they're still useful. So they're kept just in case the value could be present. So we can see that maybe the voltage could be used, voltage in kilovolt or category. Maybe we can use the category field. So let's close it. Instead of a single symbol, we're going to do categorized value category. Where is it? All the way down. Here we're gonna choose. Here we're gonna classify. But in this case, I don't really want to have like very different values. I want the same color for everything. So I'm gonna apply it here. Something like yellow could be nice. So I'm gonna change the light. Yeah. So we're just gonna change the size. So we're gonna take always this orange, and the first one we're gonna make it quite big because it's extreme high voltage. So apply, high voltage, we're gonna do the same. Gonna do it slightly smaller. Gonna move low voltage below. We're going to the medium one. So same thing, we're gonna do orange, even smaller, 0.06. And same for low voltage, we're gonna do it smaller. Airline, which is the smallest we can possibly do. And apply. So now it's better on so on line dataset. It can be quite tricky to create labels, and in our case it's not needed because there's no field that really indicates the name of it. You could use labels online if it's for a road or things like this, but in our case it's better not to put any labels. So now already we're starting to have a clear map. So when we zoom fully out, so when we zoom at this level, we can see that there's I'm gonna just change the label for this because okay. Okay, perfect. Because we couldn't see much. So now already we can see that all the power plants are connected to some of those lines, and that they go to different places. So now one other item we can change is so we saw how to change points, line, and for polygon it's relatively the same. But one thing we could do is if you want to make a map only of one country, you can see that you have something we didn't have with the line and the points, which is inverted polygon. So we're gonna try it. So it allows to create the opposite of the shape you're working on to really like kind of hide the rest. So we're gonna make it, let's make it like a bit gray like this. And right now it really highlights the country. But one thing that's very practical when you create maps is to take this one and put it all the way to the top, and it becomes your kind of like a mask layer. It will hide everything else around. It's not always a good idea because, for example, in our case, you have a lot of the entities that they don't stop at the border; they continue. They're interconnected with other countries. But if you really want to focus on one specific country and really hide the rest, it's a good way to highlight it. You can also do like specific things on it in terms of layer rendering. So already you have like all the options of colors similar to the rest, but you also have a layer rendering that allows you to create like effects. So effects are like a bit more advanced symbology that allow you to do different things on it. as well, you can add a drop shadow to it, which create like this small symbology around the point where you want to really like give more context to this. It feels like all this part where mapping is a bit below the rest. So here we are. We now have a map of Ethiopia with a main power plant that you can zoom in and out, have like all the information, the power line, and when you zoom fully out, you just have the categories. We will see in the next session how to create a layout, meaning how you can add a title to it, the legend, and really have a print-ready version of this map. We'll also see some example of plugins, and we'll see quickly how to edit the data. And yeah, that's it for this session. Thank you for joining, and looking forward for the next one.